Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you for the invitation to speak in front of such a distinguished audience and such specialized audience. My presentation is, as you announced it, a sort of case study presentation. I'd like to not only to focus on the case of Saudi Arabia as such, but also to present a little bit the broader context of the presentation of these reports. You all know about the SDGs, about Agenda 2030, but there is less knowledge about the sort of institutional context in which these reviews or reports are presented. So I will say a few words about the institutional content. Then I will go to the contents of the Saudi Arabia reports, going to in general and some specifics. I will identify what was presented as main challenges as problem in the report, and some numerical summaries of the achievement by Saudi Arabia in terms of SDGs, and then something more about the place of Saudi Arabia in a broader context. I hope I will be short enough after such a detailed presentation of the excellent SDG Universities Initiative. So this is about the high-level political forum. This is a newly invented forum, which is precisely meant to analyze the progress, to study the follow-up and review every year the status of implementation of SDGs. Of course, not all countries can present reports in one session, so there is a system of rotation in the presentation of these reports. What is important to say is that it's a forum organized at a high level. So every 4 years, the participation of heads of states and government. Then for the rest of the ministers, and every 2 years for to the level of ministers, and the ECOSOC under the auspices of ECOSOC. So all main organs of the United Nations are represented in that exercise. And not only the governments, who we'll see in the next slide, also the civil society and academia. What this forum does every July, after reviewing the national voluntary reports, is that they can adopt a political declaration. This political declaration remains the realm of the governments, so they are negotiated among governments, but they are important steps in the message the United Nations as a whole sent to the world. Here we don't have to see that in detail. What I'm trying to underline as a message is that this forum is not only about governments, it's not only about diplomats or high officials coming from the capital. It's about all other relevant stakeholders and entities that are interested in Agenda 2030. And based on some big groups, they can participate in the debate. They can attend official meetings. They can have access to official information. They can intervene in official meetings. They can, what is probably more important, to submit documents and present written and oral contributions. They can organize side events once they are present physically in New York, where this forum takes place. The point about that is that it is the exercise of presenting national voluntary reviews. It's not just the government, presented their own perspective. There is always this objective, this neutral participation of other organizations. So it's an exercise in state of excellent transparency, this kind of high-level forum. It's I would say it's a political innovation, and it works pretty well. I don't think it would be possible to have a better form of follow-up and analysis when we are talking about 193 countries. So the nature of these reports, they are voluntary. So no one is actually under any obligation to present such reports, but they are considered very important because as the statistics show it, so far 189 UN member states presented 406 reviews or reports. One notable exception is the United States. We don't discuss the reasons, and there are some other 3 states that did not present any review. But those countries are having probably an excuse related to the capacity to do that. Okay, now we are entering into what the government of Saudi Arabia reported as achievements. So first of all, it's you know, we had somehow midterm in the long way from 2015 to 2015 to 2030. So it's a midterm review, so to say. And this report of Saudi Arabia was issued in 2023. And I can imagine that the data used was from the previous year. So I would say that this progress on over 50% of SDG indicator is a very good indicator. In terms of human development, the kingdom ensured that every family has access to essential public services, including education, healthcare, electricity, water, and sanitation. Under the same chapter, important is what has been achieved in terms of healthcare improvements. So it's about statistics that show very important advancement, such as the high percentage of births attended by trained healthcare personnel, and a low under 5 mortality rate of 9 deaths per 1,000 live births. And also improvement on the tuberculosis indicator. So I think that any one of you can check against delivery, against reality, these figures, but they are, as I said, they are not just the government trying to look good. They are indicators, they are statistics checked by the United Family in Saudi Arabia, by the civil society organizations, and I think these kind of reports, I hope it will be they will be a sort of inspiration for the university to see in what specific areas they can intervene, work with the government, or even help the government. Other achievements are, you should understand that I was trying to extract from the report, you know, the most relevant information. It's a report of over 400 pages. Whoever is interested in a specific area can go to the report. But in terms of economic development, it's the diversification. I think this is everybody knows that the main concern of Saudi Arabia and other countries rich in oil is to diversify the economy beyond oil dependency. And that is, the government made a number of reforms that opened the financial sector to international investment, enhanced labor market participation, and that is circumscribed to the effort to reduce the oil dependency. The investment in social protection, I put it also under this umbrella, an investment of 26.6 billion in social protection program aiming at supporting low and middle income households is quite important figure and achievement. And I think those of you who are from Saudi Arabia have heard about the Citizen Account program. In terms of infrastructure and innovation, we have the digital health initiatives. That is one of the important achievements. So hundreds of health centers connected to an electronic healthcare system, which also contribute to enhance the efficiency of service delivery. And the initiative on sustainable urban development, in particular the projects related to the NEOMs, the line. I think we cannot enter into details, but again, I'm sure you heard about that. Now, it's a different perspective. So what I presented so far was at the macro level. Now, as at the micro level, and when I say micro level, I refer to individual SDGs. So I have a few illustrations on quality education. Saudi Arabia improved the educational access and quality and implemented reforms meant to align education with the needs of the labor market. That is vocational training, higher education opportunities, etc. The gender equality, I think the achievement is the increased participation of women in the workforce and the leadership role, and other initiatives taken under the auspices of the Vision 2030. I think this vision was also mentioned by Professor Alam. Affordable and clean energy, investment in renewable energy projects with the target to produce substantial amounts of renewable energy by 2030. And I think this is a very telling for a country that has the oil that is abundant in oil resources, and that concern for renewable energy, it cannot be but a positive factor. Sustainable city and communities. So I mentioned a little bit about the program of urban development in the previous slide. On the SDG 13, the Saudi Green Initiative, again, this is something that I read in the report, but I hope that is something that is known at the level of the entire society in Saudi Arabia, and the concern for the circular carbon economy which includes afforestation efforts, emissions reduction targets, etc. And of course, this is quite a universal goal, the partnership for the goals. This is what WASP is trying to promote. Saudi Arabia has actively engaged in partnership with various stakeholders, including international organizations. I think this collaborative effort can and should be joined by university, which can bring to the fore their knowledge and their research capabilities, and in particular to train for the society to produce a working force in Saudi Arabia, which will be aware of the needs of the sustainable development, which will be educated ab initio on how to protect the environment and how to reduce the impact of the climate change. A few initiatives I won't enter. They look technical, but they give us an idea about how diverse are the specific programs that are meant to reduce dioxide carbon emissions. So the Saudi Green Initiative with smart electricity meters and the afforestation goals. The circular carbon economy with 4 ours framework, reduce, reuse, recycle, and remove greenhouse gas emissions. The technology to capture and store carbon. We talk already about the investment in the renewable and the energy efficiency program, and the specific methane emissions management with this initiative, which is meant to reduce that sort of emission by 30% before 2030. Now, of course, there are a number of challenges, a number of difficulties that are facing the implementation of the SDGs. I mentioned a few of them, which are actually the other side of the coin. So there is something done, but there is still a problem. For instance, in the economic diversification, there are still some vulnerability to the fluctuation in the global oil prices. There is an extra effort to strengthen the participation of youth and women in the labor market, and that also includes work on the cultural factors. There are, in terms of education and skills alignment, the gaps between educational outcomes and job market requirements, which one of the consequences is the underemployment among graduates. The water scarcity, pollution, and biodiversity loss require even more robust policies, and not just governmental policies, but also community engagement to ensure that sustainable practices are adopted. The institutional capacity, I think it's not just the case of Saudi Arabia, but in many of the countries engaged seriously in the implementation of Agenda 2030. The process of strengthening the institutional capacity continues. And there is a need of insufficient coordination about various entities in sustainability efforts. Again, I will make a reference to these SDG University initiatives because it is all about coordination and putting together the resources, avoiding duplication, avoiding time waste, to find partners, to find resources, human or other kind of resources. So I would say that this SDG initiative is serving very well this challenge. It's serving very well the effort to face the challenge of a better multi-stakeholder engagement. Now, I think my discussion with Alam on Saudi Arabia started from this problem of the availability of statistical data, and Alam showed you the graph on the progress of SDGs at global level, and we noticed that one of the problems related to the implementation is the lack of statistical data. Now, I have also a sort of personal views on that. When the Agenda 2030 was adopted, I think there was an excess in introducing too many specific indicators on narrow niches of the economy and the society. It is not very useful. It is not very easy to create new statistical indicators, to collect that data at, breakdown at a low level. So it is a difficulty for many countries, not for all. And I suspect that by the end of 2030, there will be still areas that are not covered by statistical minutiae and detailed statistical data, which is bad news. But at the same time, we could look at the full empty glass, in the sense that we don't have statistical data, but maybe there is improvement which we cannot really include into some metrics. So in terms of data availability, there are progress in data collection. The General Authority for Statistics seems to make a considerable effort to coordinate efforts and to improve the data collection and analysis. I would say that data collection is more difficult than the analysis. Now, for the analysis, we may use computers and artificial intelligence in a better way. And still, as far as the coverage of indicators is concerned, Saudi Arabia was able to monitor more than 50% of the total SDG indicators, which is pretty remarkable. Now, there are data gaps. There are lacking consistency across some indicators. These are reality. There are examples in the report in terms of data gaps. Environmental and social indicators seems to lack sufficient data points, and there are differences between coverage related to different areas. For example, health-related indicators have a better coverage than gender equality or water management. It is what I said. This is the level of the needed indicator is quite sophisticated, and that makes the job difficult for everyone. So the recommendations envisaged in the report is partnership with international organizations, so to enhance collaboration, investment in infrastructure, and capacity building. Again, I don't see the universities contributing with resources for investment, but I see a role of universities in strengthening partnership and in training of personnel, even in terms of data collection and analysis. This, I'm sure there is a potential to be explored. Now we come to what I called and I anticipated. There are these numerical summaries. If you look at the bottom of the table, we see a rather positive and optimistic status at midterm. So 56 improvements, non-improving only 7, no trend detected so far, so sort of stagnation. 22 indicators, insufficient data, 31 indicators. So the situation is not perfect, but I think overall we can say that it is fine. Here is so the previous just to make sure that I'm clear. This is the information contained in the report. But I double check the information in other analysis and other statistical data. And as you can see, again, we are having more areas where there is improvement, like SDG 2, SDG 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, and 17. So obviously there is a lot of improvement, and the stagnation is present only on 3 indicators, according to that neutral objective source, which is Cambridge University Press, and the team headed by the now famous Professor Jeffrey Sachs. Okay, now. I start to give you some hints on what I call the global, broader perspective. So it's not about how the government of Saudi Arabia sees the progress in Saudi Arabia. It's about the UNDP perspective on Saudi Arabia. So these are I highlighted the conclusion of UNDP, which qualifies Saudi Arabia progress in implementing the Agenda 2030 as significant and not noteworthy. And there are a few examples on human development, and I will insist on human development because that is a global indicator, very important, since it was a novelty in the 90s. Saudi Arabia is positioned 35th among 191 countries in terms of human development. The economic transformation, we talked about that, and so it is also underlined by UNDP. The increased female participation, the positioning as a regional leadership. I was wondering if it is politically correct for me to qualify the effort of a country from the perspective of being or not being a regional leader. So I said, no, it's not my job. But if you mention that in the report, that is something that comes from an objective perspective. So indeed, Saudi Arabia has positioned itself as a regional and a global leader in environmental sustainability. The growth in the tourism sector is also identified as positive by UNDP. And the partnership of UNDP is happy with the partnership with the government of Saudi Arabia and probably also with the actors from the civil society. I'm sure you are aware about what the Human Development Index is. It started in 1990s. The message which the United Nations and more specifically UNDP tried to convey by this indicator was that the pure economic growth, GDP per capita, is not enough to give a good picture of what human development is in a specific country. In the sense that there were countries that were rich in resources, but the impact on the population was not that important. So we can see this evolution. So they invented this indicator which combined the income per capita with education, with the years of schooling, and with life expectancy at birth. I remember that this indicator was very much criticized at the beginning by scientists, saying that it's an artificial construction, that you cannot put that different things together. They don't mean anything. They are not having a scientific basis. But I noticed that the governments embraced very soon this indicator because they could compare their performance with the performance of other countries, and that was more complex. So you can see the progress of Saudi Arabia, which had a score of 0.662 in 1990, which placed it on the 62nd place among countries. And it was improved both in terms of, in absolute terms, to 0.875, and the rank was in 2022 the 40th rank in the hierarchy. And the current estimation is even better. So one should not neglect that progress made by Saudi Arabia, because practically all the countries in the world tried to improve their score. So the fact that Saudi Arabia could pass from the 62nd to the 40th or 35th place, it says a lot. It says more than the other, let's say, specific consideration. Another way to see the place of Saudi Arabia in the development context is to have a look at the official assistance for development. So what is the point of that? The point of that is to what extent Saudi Arabia contributes to the development of other countries as well. So it's not just about the specificity of the needs, the national needs of the country, but also to what extent they contributed to the official assistance for development. And again, what I'm offering here briefly is a perspective from a neutral source, the Organization for Cooperation for Development, which says that actually there is a lot that the Saudi Arabia does in terms of bilateral and multilateral aid. They provide us a portion of its ODA bilaterally, which means directly to governments or organizations in recipient countries, and to multilateral organizations. So to understand that, you can help a specific country individually, bilaterally, but you can provide resources to a United Nations agency which will help the development of that specific country. The Saudi Fund for Development contributed over 3,750 projects worldwide in 71 countries, which is again remarkable. In terms of humanitarian aid, the role of the King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center is underlined. In terms of voluntary contribution, now all the ODA assistance is voluntary contributions, but there are organizations that consider a specific category of contributions that go beyond the mandatory allocation. For instance, Saudi Arabia has to pay us specific assessed contribution, which is mandatory to the United Nations organizations, but for some specific activities can or cannot contribute to the extra funds which are voluntary. And the partnership with international organizations, as you can see, it was the good partnership with the UNDP is already emphasized also by the OECD, and they also mentioned the collaboration with the organization called Gavi, which is a big vaccine alliance based in Geneva. So you've seen that we are having here a more complex issue. It's not just the good progress made by Saudi Arabia in the implementation of the goal internally. It's a progress in the Human Development Index. It's a progress in terms of contributing to ODA. So this was what I wanted to underline for you to understand the how and where these reports are analyzed, and what kind of information you can find in a national report. And I think it was a good example, the example of Saudi Arabia, because obviously it inspires a little bit of sense of optimism that advancing in the implementation of SDGs is possible. Thank you very much, Alam, and I will stop sharing the screen. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Petru. Fantastic. Well analyzed and good reflection. And I think it will make a very good, very good starting point for this initiative. And we will share the video as soon as possible. Thank you very much for the very fantastic work. And I think the experience you have shown on analyzing this report, well done.